The shadow stepped out of the cell. It did not walk the way people walk. It slid across the floor like smoke in a bottle. It had shoulders and a head and arms, but no face I could see, only a deeper black where a face should be. I stood in the middle of cell block 7 at Eastern State Penitentiary, my breath small and fast. The iron door behind me groaned. Then it slammed shut on its own. The lock turned. Metal on metal. A heavy click. I jumped and grabbed the bars. "Hey!" My voice flew down the long hall and came back to me from every stone wall. The shadow kept coming, slow and sure, like it had waited a long time to be seen. "Don't move!" Avery yelled from the corridor. She shone her flashlight, but the beam broke on the dark like water on rock. "Sam, back up." I could not move. The shadow reached the edge of the weak light and stopped. It tilted its head as if it wanted to hear better. From somewhere above us, drops of water tapped a steady beat into a tin bucket. Drip, drip, drip. My heart tried to keep up and could not. Behind the shadow, the row of empty cells breathed out cold air all at once, like a giant taking a long, slow sigh. Far down the block, a door creaked open. Another door answered. The hall made a sound like quiet keys in a quiet pocket. "Sam," the shadow said. Not loud. Not a whisper. It spoke my name in a flat voice like a guard reading a list. It came from in front of me and behind me and under my feet all at the same time. "Open the door." Avery shouted at the lock. "Now." I pulled and shook and pushed. The iron stayed iron. The shadow lifted one arm. Its hand was not a hand. It was a shape like a hand cut out of the dark. It reached toward my chest as if it wanted to count my ribs. The drip in the bucket stopped. Everything stopped. And then the lights went out. Hours earlier, Eastern State did not feel like a trap. It felt like a museum that had decided to keep half its secrets. The stone walls looked like a castle. The tall, broken skylights let in gray winter light. The sign by the gates said Philadelphia in proud letters, and below that, Eastern State Penitentiary. We were there for the night tour. Not a dare. Not a prank. A real tour with a real guide. The four of us, me, Sam, Avery, Marcus, and Lily, stood with a small group on the cracked pavement as our guide, Ms. Rivera, lifted a ring of heavy keys that clanged like a cowbell. "Rule 1, she said, smiling but serious. "Stay with me. Rule 2, if you hear your name and it is not coming from my mouth or your friend's mouth, you do not answer. Rule 3, if a door closes on its own, you do not reach through to stop it." "Because fingers," Marcus muttered. "Because history," Ms. Rivera said. "These doors are old and strong. They do what they want." She turned and led us through a wide arch into a round hub with many corridors. When this place opened in 1829, it was the most modern prison in the world. 1 prisoner per cell. 1 tiny skylight per cell. They called it the Eye of God. Silence all day. Silence all night. "Alone?" Lily asked. Her eyes were big. "Alone," Ms. Rivera said. "Some men left here quiet. Some left here broken." She walked us down cell block 2 first. Our footsteps made hollow sounds. The cells were small, each with a low door, a cot, a sink, and a slice of sky. "It was meant to teach people to think," she explained. "To be sorry. To start again." She did not say more. She did not have to. We had low parts and high parts like waves. Low, reading a plaque about the old bakery and how the bread once smelled so good it made men cry. High, hearing a steel door click 2 times when no one touched it. Low, Lily saying she liked the way the wind made the leaves sound outside the wall. High, a whisper that did not belong to wind, sliding from one empty cell to the next. In cell block 4, Ms. Rivera told us about the guard tower and the searchlights that used to sweep the yard. "No one hides in a circle," she said, pointing back to the hub. "All roads lead to the center. The guards could look down every hall from there." "What about the shadows?" Avery asked, trying to sound like she was joking. "Do they go to the center too?" Ms. Rivera's keys were quiet for a moment. "Shadows go where people don't," she said. "They like old rules." We reached an iron gate and stopped. Ms. Rivera held up her keys again and shook them for sound. "This is 7, she said. "People feel strange here. If you feel sad, step back. If you feel angry for no reason, say so. If you feel," she looked at me because I was closest to the bars. "Count your fingers. Count what you can see. The brain loves numbers." "Why 7? Marcus asked. She tapped the sign with one finger. The paint was chipped, the numbers still sharp. "Some stories start here." She unlocked the gate. The hinges moaned. Cold air brushed our faces like a wet cloth. Lights hung in a line from the ceiling, tired yellow bulbs trying to be brave. The hall went long and longer, cells on both sides like little mouths with iron teeth. Somebody had set a metal bucket under a leak. The drip, drip, drip made a clock where there was no clock. We stepped in. Avery squeezed my hand and did not let go. Marcus walked with his shoulders big, trying to look in charge even while he kept to the middle where nothing could grab him from either side. Lily stared up at the skylights and whispered, "Eye of God," like it was a prayer and a question at once. At first, 7 felt like the other blocks, sad, heavy, full of the echo of old footsteps. Then it felt different. The air went still. The drip in the bucket got loud enough to hear inside your teeth. The lights hummed a little and then hummed a little less, like they were tired of being the only brave ones in the room. "Stay close," Ms. Rivera said. She walked 2 cells ahead of us, her light sweeping over a door, over a number, over a crack in the wall that looked too much like a hand pressed there a long time ago. A door creaked open behind us. We all turned. Nothing had moved. All the doors were closed. The sound came again, but from the other side this time, like someone playing a game with our ears. Click, click. Marcus swallowed. "Wind." "There is no wind here," Ms. Rivera said softly. The lights flickered and came back. Avery's fingers dug into my palm. Lily whispered, "Count your fingers." I did. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I counted the light bulbs. 1, 2, 3, 10. I counted the drips and lost count. We reached the middle of the block. The drain in the floor had rust around it like a red flower. Someone had scratched a date in the stone near the drain a long time ago. 1904. I wondered who had held the nail. I wondered if they had looked up through that small round window and begged the sky to look back. The sound of keys came again, not Ms. Rivera's keys, the sound of keys too far away to be helpful. It scraped along the walls, traveled through the bars, and stopped right behind me. I turned fast. A shadow stood inside the cell to my left. It was not a trick of light. My brain tried to make it into a coat on a peg or a pile of rags. It was neither. It had shoulders. It had the idea of a head. It unhooked itself from the back wall and came forward like a man deciding to stand. "Ms. Rivera?" Lily's voice broke. "Do you see?" "I see it," Ms. Rivera said. She did not run. She did not shout. "We are guests," she said to the shadow. "We are leaving." The door to that cell was half open. The shadow reached it. The door finished opening by itself, slow and smooth, hinges that should have screamed whispering instead. The shadow slid out. Back. Avery pulled me. I stumbled and hit the bars on the other side with my shoulder. The gate behind us swung on its own and slammed. The sound boomed down the block. Ms. Rivera spun toward it, keys in hand, but she was on the far side of the shadow now, and I was not. The iron door to my right, my own cell door, groaned like a throat that had not used words in years. It swung inward. Cold touched my ankles in a soft, mean way. Before I could step away, the door shut fast. The lock fell. "Sam." Avery rattled the bars. "Sam." Ms. Rivera's flashlight beam slid across my face, then across the shadow's edge where the light went thin. "Stand still," she said. "Count. Breathe." I tried. 1, 2, 3. My breath turned small white clouds in the cold. The shadow tilted its head at me like a question. It lifted its knot hand and pointed right at my chest. "Sam," it said. The drip in the bucket stopped. The lights went out. And in the dark, the shadow's cold fingers, or whatever shadows use for fingers, touched my shirt over my heart and pressed, as if it were checking to see if my count was correct. Cold pressed through my shirt like ice held by a hand that wasn't a hand. I couldn't see it touch me, but I felt the weight, 1 coin of winter right over my heart. I tried to count like Ms. Rivera said. 1, 2, 3. My numbers scattered like dry leaves. Avery slammed the bars again. "Sam. Talk to me." "I'm here," I said, and my voice sounded small, like it had to crawl to reach her. Metal scraped. Ms. Rivera's keys fumbled in the dark. "Everyone stay still," she said. "No one say their full name. Sam, keep breathing. Shadows like silence, we won't give them ours." Marcus whispered too loud, "This is bad." "Quiet please," Ms. Rivera said. Even now she was steady. "I'm opening the gate." The touch on my chest moved, slow as a clock hand, up to my throat. Not choking. Just learning. A cold thumb paused under my jaw as if finding my pulse. I swallowed and felt winter move inside my neck. "Count what you can hear," Ms. Rivera said, closer now. "Together. Ready? 1 for my keys." Clang. We all said, 1. 2 for the drip. The bucket in the hall answered with a single, hopeful tap. 2. 3 for my voice. 3. 4 for Avery's breath. I heard it, fast and brave. 4. The pressure eased. The thing in front of me didn't leave, but it leaned back like a person listening through a wall. I breathed again and could taste dust and iron. The wooden door yawned open like a mouth in the wall, wide enough to swallow the light. Every lamp in cell block 10 dimmed, one after another, until only the thin moonlight from the cracked skylights remained. The air grew heavy, like we were standing underwater, and the sound of breathing came from the dark behind that door. Not one breath. Many. Shallow, slow, echoing in and out of stone lungs. Ms. Rivera lifted her flashlight and spoke softly as if to a sick child. You've done enough walking for tonight. We see you. We'll leave you your hallway. The shadow thing in the center tilted its head, jerking in small, uneven motions, like something replaying a movement it didn't understand. When it spoke again, its voice wasn't one voice anymore. It was hundreds, whispering in the same rhythm, the words stacking over each other until it sounded like a wave. Stay, stay, stay. Avery squeezed my hand so hard my fingers went numb. We're not staying, she whispered. But the shadow stretched its arms and suddenly the walls stretched too. The hallway seemed to lengthen, like we were walking backward even though we hadn't moved. The air pulled at us, dragging us toward the door. Lily's hair lifted around her face, weightless in the pressure. Marcus shouted, "Run!" But his voice came out slow and deep like the air had swallowed it. Ms. Rivera shoved us toward the yard door. "Don't look back," she said. "Eyes on the exit. Count. 1. I yelled. 2. Avery gasped. 3. Lily cried. 4. Marcus said, his voice cracking. The shadow's arm extended down the hall, fingers stretching like smoke. It brushed the wall, and as it did, the plaster peeled off in strips, curling like paper in fire. The cell doors on both sides began to bang, slow at first, then all together, metal slamming like 100 fists. The sound filled every corner of the prison, every breath between our teeth. We reached the yard door. Ms. Rivera threw her shoulder into it. Russ screamed. The bar groaned. Then with a cracking pop, the door gave way, spilling us into the cold night. The rain had stopped, but fog covered everything, thick and low, hugging the ground like smoke that refused to rise. We stumbled down the steps into the open yard. The wall of the prison rose behind us, massive and endless. The windows above glowed faintly, one by one, like eyes opening to watch. In one of them, cell block 7, I could see the shape again. Just standing there. Watching. Waiting. Head count. Ms. Rivera barked, her voice back in command mode. Now. 1. I said. 2. Avery. 3. Lily. 4. Marcus. She nodded. Good. Keep counting if you need to. That door won't open again tonight. But even as she said it, the yard door creaked behind her. Slowly. Softly. Like a long sigh. We turned as one. The shadow stood in the doorway, but this time it wasn't alone. Behind it, more shapes filled the corridor, dozens, maybe hundreds. Some were tall, some small, all darker than dark. They crowded the frame like people lining up for roll call. They can't leave this ground, Ms. Rivera said, though her voice had lost its strength. They don't cross the wall. Are you sure? Lily asked. Ms. Rivera didn't answer. The shadow at the door took a step onto the wet stone. The fog around its feet stirred. Another step. Then another. Its reflection rippled faintly on the damp ground, and that was the worst part. Shadows shouldn't have reflections. Back to the hub, Ms. Rivera said. Now. Stay low, stay together. We moved as one tight knot, crossing the yard toward the inner archway that led back inside. The fog pressed close, cold and living. I could feel it brush against my skin, whispering. Every few seconds I heard my name again, faint in the fog's hiss. Sam? It wasn't loud, but it felt inside me, like a thought I didn't make. Don't listen, Avery said beside me, eyes fixed ahead. Just count. Just walk. 4 more steps, Marcus said. 3. 2. A clang split the air. The main gate, huge and iron, slammed shut behind us. We froze. The sound rolled through the whole prison, echoing like thunder down every hallway. When I turned, the yard was empty. The fog was gone. The shadows had vanished. Only the rain returned, soft and steady, washing the stone clean. Ms. Rivera pulled in a slow breath. All right, she said. We're done here. Back to the main gate. She led us down the central corridor, the sound of our footsteps small and human again. The air inside was still cold, but not heavy anymore. The prison felt tired, like an old animal curling back to sleep. I let myself believe it was over. We reached the visitor's exit. Ms. Rivera turned the final lock. "Once this door opens," she said, "you walk straight to the street. No talking. No looking back." We nodded. She pushed the door. It opened easily like it wanted us gone. We stepped outside into the weak morning light. The city looked normal. Cars passed. Birds sang. The fog thinned behind us, rising off the roof of Eastern State like steam from a cooling pot. Marcus let out a shaky laugh. "We lived." Lily smiled a little. "Yeah." Avery looked back just for a second. "Don't," I started to say, but she froze. "What is it?" I asked. Her face went pale. "Look." I turned. For the first few days after the visit to Eastern State Penitentiary, everything seemed almost normal. Almost. We'd gone home, each of us to our separate lives, but the prison had come with us like a shadow stuck to our shoes. Every sound felt sharper. Every corner seemed to breathe. And at night, when it was quiet, there was that same cold in the air, that same heavy silence that lived inside the stone walls of that old place. I woke the next morning to find frost on the inside of my bedroom window. It was early spring in Philadelphia, not cold enough for that. My first thought was simple: maybe the heater broke. But when I leaned close, I saw that the frost wasn't random. It had formed a pattern, lines and smudges, 5 long streaks like the marks of a hand dragging down glass. My chest tightened. I remembered the window at Eastern State. The hand that slid down just before the voice whispered, "Stay." I blinked hard. When I opened my eyes again, the frost was